Hello and welcome to Business Insight, where we give you information on business, innovation, entrepreneurship, and sales. I'm Adesua Eramosele, and before we delve into what we have for today, we will be joining Alfreda with the business news updates. Stay with us.
Good morning and thanks for joining us in Business News. I am Alfreda Basi, bringing you business updates, currency market trends, stocks and commodities. In a significant development, President Bola Tinubu presided over the signing of two crucial Memoranda of Understanding (MOUs) on Tuesday. The first agreement involves the supply of gas from Nigeria to Germany, with Riverside LNG of Nigeria and Johannes Schutz Energy Import AG of Germany joining forces. Simultaneously, a second pact worth $500 million was inked for renewable energy projects in Nigeria, uniting Union Bank of Nigeria and DWS Group in cooperation. The Riverside LNG project is set to deliver 850,000 tons of energy per annum to Germany initially, with plans for expansion to 1.2 million tons per annum. Speaking from Berlin, Germany, at the 10th German-Nigerian Business Forum, President Tinubu highlighted the resilience of Nigeria's democracy, positioning the country as an attractive destination for foreign direct investments. The gas supply project is slated to commence in 2026 with the potential for further expansion. Tinubu assured German businesses of Nigeria's stable political landscape, emphasizing the nation's commitment to sustaining economic reforms and fostering stronger Nigerian-German relations. CEO of Gas Invest, David Ige, revealed that the Riverside LNG project aims to extinguish approximately 50 million cubic feet per day of fled gas in Nigeria. Expressing confidence in investing in Nigeria's gas sector, the Chief Operating Officer of Johannes Schutz Energy Import AG, Frank Otto, characterized the partnership as a big deal for the German market. Additionally, Farouk Gumel, chairman of Union Bank, underlined the importance of rural inclusion and formal economy participation. The Federal Capital Territory FCT administration, led by Minister Nyesom Wike, has implemented a new 5 million naira fee for Certificate of Occupancy (CFO) issuance, citing revenue generation and prevention of fake certificates. Wike spoke on the need to link national identification numbers (NIN) to CFOs in order to enhance authenticity, stating that the administration will review past land allocations and collaborate with the President's office for verification. The minister expressed concern over excessive workers' salaries, claiming to have saved 110 billion naira within 3 months, noting that the task force inaugurated is to ensure individual CFOs for housing estate units and recover outstanding fees. This aims to bring order to land administration in the FCT. And away from that, the House of Representatives have approved the 2024 to 2026 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper, endorsing a borrowing plan of 7.8 trillion naira for 2024 with key parameters which include benchmark oil prices, daily crude oil production levels, and exchange rates. The House supported a budget with 26 trillion naira spending, 16.9 trillion naira retained revenue, 9 trillion naira deficit, 7.8 trillion naira new borrowings, and allocation for statutory transfers, debt service costs, sinking fund, pension, gratuity, and recurrent expenditure. The committees involved recommended winding up irregular Nigerian Postal Service subsidiaries, investigating mismanagement of restructuring funds, and scrutinizing tax waivers granted since 2015, except for NGOs or non-profits. And now the European Union, EU, has expanded its Erasmus Plus postgraduate scholarships to include both academic and non-academic staff from Nigerian higher institutions to enhance knowledge sharing, professional growth, and strengthen Nigeria-EU ties through education. The scholarship covers participation costs, travel, visa, and living allowance for 1 to 2 academic years. This year, the program is broadened to include teaching and non-teaching staff, reflecting the EU's commitment to supporting Nigeria's higher education sector and fostering knowledge exchange. EU Ambassador Samuela Isopi highlighted the program's success, having sponsored quite a number of Nigerians since 2004, noting the eligibility of candidates, which include higher education staff, with encouragement to visit the official Erasmus Plus scholarship website for application details and opportunities. We take a short break and return with stocks and commodities. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. At the close of Tuesday's trading session on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, NGX, a total of 491,397,660 shares were traded in 6,549 deals, corresponding to a market value of 3,221,797,916 naira. Compared to Monday, Tuesday's data shows a 37% improvement in volume, but a 26% decline in turnover. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is 39,100 billion naira. In the aggregate, 122 NGX listed equities participated in trading, ending with 45 gainers and 8 losers. Make Your Industries led the gainers with a 10% share price appreciation, closing at 6.93 naira per share, followed by Learn Africa, Northern Nigeria Flour Mills, and Cadbury Nigeria. On the losing side, Champion Breweries came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 10% at 3.24 naira per share, followed by Owando, International Breweries, and FCMB Group. Unity Bank recorded the highest volume of 75.4 million traded shares, followed by Universal Insurance Company, Mutual Benefits Assurance, and J. Paul Gold and Ventures. And now at the close of Tuesday's trading session on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, NSE, a total of 9,030,300 shares in 869 deals, corresponding to a market value of 97,921,421 Kenya shillings, were traded. Compared with Monday's NSE trading day, today's data shows a 47% improvement in volume, a 47% improvement in turnover, and a 10% improvement in deals. The current market capitalization of the Nairobi Securities Exchange is 1,420 billion Kenyan shilling. In the aggregate, 46 NSE listed equities participated in trading, ending with 23 gainers and 15 losers. Sanlam Kenya led the gainers with a 10% share price appreciation, closing at 7.48 Kenyan shilling per share, followed by Car and General Kenya, TPS Eastern Africa Serena, and Liberty Kenya Holdings. On the losing side, Captura Tea Company came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 8.17% at 290.25 Kenyan shilling per share, followed by Olympia Capital Holdings, Eveready East Africa, and Uchumi Supermarket. Safaricom recorded the highest volume of 4.62 million traded shares, followed by Kengen, Kenya Power and Lighting Company, and Cooperative Bank of Kenya. And that's how we wrap up the news segment. Many thanks for watching. I am Alfreda Ambe Basi. Business Insight continues with Adesua Eromosele.
Thank you, Alfreta, for that in-depth, insightful news update. And you're welcome back to Business Insight. And here we discuss innovation, entrepreneurship, business, anything business related, actually. You will have it here. So if you have not subscribed to our channel, we are at Souk News. And you can also follow us on other social platforms. Yes, still at Souk News, okay? All right. And today we'll be discussing the impact of inflation on the building industry. Yes, building industry. So now we know inflation is not far-fetched. It is a word frequently used in the business space, and you know it is a phenomenon that affects basically anything, any commodity, from food to transportation. Every sector, you know, is susceptible to inflation. You know, and of course, inflation is almost synonymous with business. You can't mention the word business and not think about inflation, because they go hand in hand. You know, probably the only thing that is not affected by inflation would probably be the air we breathe. All right, so inflation basically refers to the general increase in the prices of goods and services. And Nigerians, in fact, in Nigeria, we have a whole lot of that happening even as we speak. It is a persistent challenge we have to face constantly, and it affects various sectors, and there are different factors that lead to this phenomenon of inflation, such as governmental policies, global economic trends, domestic issues, currency devaluation, high production costs, supply chain disruption, inadequate infrastructure, and so many other factors, you know. And of course, these are the challenges we have to deal with. And when we're streamlining it to the building material industry, you know, of course, building materials such as cement, wood, and anything used when it comes to building, you know, what we are referring to as the building material industry. So everything comes together, you know, everything that comes together in the building of a structure, or you know, be it for commercial purpose, for residential purpose, or for infrastructural development. You know, this is what we are referring to as the building material industry, so to speak. And of course, in Nigeria, construction happens every other day. You know, despite inflation, people are still building houses every now and then. So, of course, the challenges, you know, is back on the consumer, right? Because once the prices of building materials increase in the market, it is the consumers that bear the brunt. They are the ones who have to pay, you know, exorbitant prices for these materials. For instance, cement rather, goes for 5,100 as we speak. That was the last time I checked. Anyway, it might even have increased now. So 5,100 is the price for cement. It is very ridiculous, to say the least. But anyway, to discuss this topic, we have with us virtually, we have a guest by the name Wilson Sampson. Is an African leading business connector. And we also have another guest by the name Emmanuel Aboson. Is a CEO of Trema Agro Services Limited. Good morning, gentlemen. All right, Mr. Wilson, welcome to the show.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me, because we can't hear you here in the studio. All right, my first question to you is, how has inflation impacted your business? In a few words, just give us that. How has inflation in Nigeria affected your business?
Well, inflation has affected my business in several ways. I'm grappling with the rising cost of production, of doing things, the price at which I went to the market to pick items, and the following day, you cannot meet such things at that price. So it has to make you to do a lot of rethinking, a lot of planning, and a lot of cutting cost in order to be able to stay afloat.
That's quite interesting. Now, when when we're referring to the industry, the building material industry, you know, what has been happening? Because we know that, of course, inflation is what we have here in Nigeria a whole lot of times. It is something that just keeps occurring and recurring, you know. So what can you say about it? Is this reducing the number of customers coming for this building materials, or what exactly is happening now?
Okay, what's happening now? It's reducing the quality of people who come to buy quality items. Right now, people are looking for alternatives, cheaper alternatives towards to building. And what that does is the purchasing power has reduced. So it's only those who deem it as a necessity to install quality products, building materials for their building. Otherwise, other people look for the shortest means to do that. Either you go for a fairly used one, or you look for a China, maybe let me not use the word, use a more inferior one, something that you can afford. So it's more like people are going for what is affordable than actually what will last.
Okay,
so it's based on the alternatives that they have. That
has this inflation issue reduced the quality of materials we have in the building material industry? Do people now go for substandard materials, you know, instead of, because in the past, I think this year, we had issues of building collapsing. And that is most likely due to the fact that they made use of substandard materials and products. So do you think that is what's prevalent now, given the inflation challenge in the country?
Well, that's what is prevalent, because even when you even see the original product, or you need to be very careful, because now you have different brand names. And so with that, you need to focus on quality if actually you want to get the best results. But when you have unqualified people manning building projects, they look for ways of cutting costs and look for substandard material to be able to meet up with their budget. So right now in the market, you have a lot of substandard materials. And so that is where the Standard Organization of Nigeria has to step up, and other relevant agencies to step up to see how to regulate the infiltration of these substandard materials into the marketplace. Because if something goes wrong, lives are going to be affected. So it has to be the saving of life before making of profits.
Okay. Now, are there any specific strategies in place by the operators of the business of this building material industry? Are there strategies in place to ensure that they are not hit by this issue of inflation too extremely?
Well, they can only try as people can only try to see how to cushion the effect of this inflation. But remember, this is the first time we're experiencing inflation at this level. This is the first time that the prices of building material will go as high as the way it currently is. So it hit everybody unaware. So there has been a lot of strategies that people are adopting to see how to make things improve. But when you look at the measurements, the measures that they are put in place, matching with the rate at which inflation is galloping, we can say that little or nothing has really been done. But to say that they have not been putting some things in place, they have been trying, but let's just see how demand and supply will be able to meet at this junction.
Okay, very well. Now let's go to the government now. What do you think, what would you advise the government to do differently to ensure that this building materials are still affordable to consumers, so that we don't have them going for substandard materials and then erecting structures that can't stand the test of time? What do you think the government can do differently in this regard?
Okay, one of the things the government can do is to protect our indigenous industries who produce this building materials. Then also look for a way to subsidize building materials, very essential building materials, because, for example, you cannot compromise with rods. The rods are going to be used. You cannot compromise on certain things that you cannot easily find. So if the government can find a way to introduce some kind of subsidy into it to help both the manufacturers and the end users be able to afford quality, because if quality is introduced, more lives are going to be saved. But if substandard products are encouraged, then more lives are going to be lost, and it's going to actually affect the ease of doing business. So the government has to look for a way to encourage both manufacturers, importers, with some level of incentive. Then also the issue of the exchange rate. I know the government is doing quite enough to see how to balance the exchange rate, but there are some measures. These are little measures here and there. Just a little hinge will actually swing wide an open door. That's just my take.
Mr. Wilson. We also have Mr. Emmanuel. I don't know if he's connected. Mr. Emmanuel, good morning. Okay, I hear Mr. Emmanuel has not joined us yet, so we just stay on you, Mr. Wilson. So there is this notion or mindset about Nigerians that we always seem to adapt eventually, no matter how the price of a particular commodity is increased. Eventually, you know, Nigerians might just complain a little bit. After a while, they get used to it and they just adjust and, you know, move on with life like nothing happened. How would you say the consumers of this building materials have reacted? How are they reacting towards the increase in prices? Are they adjusting to it, or are they going for other products, or, you know, other substandards, just like we earlier mentioned, other substandard materials, or are they adjusting to the new norm and, you know, and actually patronizing this same materials at this new cost?
Well, thank you for that great question. At the moment, the three rules apply. Nigerians are trying to adjust. Some are looking for a way to get alternatives to what they are currently using. Then while others have just made up their mind to let us go for what we can afford, even if it's inferior, it's better we'll keep buying it than diverting the money that could have been channeled to something else to buy the quality one. So with either way, Nigeria is one of the most resilient country in the world, where no matter what happens, people just have a way to adjust back. I think we'll say that the elastic limit of Nigerians, it seems, is higher in this part of the world than any other part. So those who can afford it are making adjustments. Those who cannot afford it are looking for substandard materials to use, at least to bridge in the gap. That's what has been happening around. It's not easy for anyone, but we're finding
Wilson,
a way to survive as usual.
We will have to go on a short break now. When we return, we continue the conversation. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's still Business Insight, and we're discussing the impact of inflation on the building material industry. And we have with us our guest, Mr. Wilson Sampson, who is an Africa's leading business connector, to discuss this topic. So, Mr. Wilson, yes. So I understand that there are some issues. Inflation usually is as a result of importation, exchange rates, and every other thing. What would you say about many of our products? Because I know some of these building materials are imported. You know, some are locally sourced, but mostly they are imported. How can, what structures can be put in place to ensure that we can actually manufacture our own materials here in Nigeria without having to outsource from other countries?
Okay, thank you for that great question. Well, Nigeria is blessed with vast mineral and human resources. So I think one of the things we need to look at as a country is to look inward rather than looking outward. We need to strengthen our local industry. We have the resources. Rather than going out, we need to focus on made in Nigerian products. Because when we begin to patronize made in Nigerian products, it takes us far. It helps us to be able to develop our own. For example, our weather and the external weather aren't the same. So when the FRC is on Nigerian products and Nigerian goods and services, I think it helps to improve the economy and also the ecosystem. Because what we have a great treasure here in this country, but because we are unable to harness them properly, that's the reason why it seems as if we rely so much on importation. And amazing, people come in here, buy what we have and export and return it back to us. So that's to tell you that we have the raw material. We just need to see how to create an enabling environment and harness what we have to the best of our advantage. And we can sell to the outer world.
Very well,
like they say, charity
Mr.
begins
Niels.
at home. We need to look for how to drive homemade products and test them until they work.
All right. Thank you for that input, Mr. Wilson. Now let's go to the cost of housing. In Nigeria today, the cost of housing has become, in fact, something else. Yeah, the average Nigerian can almost not afford a 2-bedroom flat, for instance, especially in a state like Lagos State. What do you think government can do when it comes to the accessibility of affordable housing for Nigerians?
Well, that's a very tough question because if we check out the way things used to be 30 years ago, we discovered that there were a lot of the real estate industry had not grown to this level. And so people had alternatives. But right now, every available space has been choked up. So everybody, both the people who own houses and people who rent houses, everybody is looking for what will be of benefit to them. And so it still boils down to creating an enabling environment. At this point, the government is the custodian of land, and the government will still need to step in, because if the government steps back and allow few private individuals to determine what happens in terms of building, then people are going to have issues with where to habit from time to time. And so one of the things that there has to be more like a town hall meeting or a stakeholder forum where the people who own property, real estate, and the government can sit down and find out how can we make affordable housing affordable. So it's going to be more of a government and private initiative to be able to meet this thing, because even if you are a government official, you're not going to be a government official forever. And even if you're living in a private apartment, definitely you're still going to use the same public road. There's no private road, and there's no public, and everybody will still make use of the same government amenities. So there has to be a round table forum where we look at, okay, how do we address these things collectively? Because there's the people who are developing private properties are also buying the building materials from the same market government officials are also buying. So there has to be a stakeholder meeting between to say, okay, how do we resolve this issue? Because it's affecting every one of us in one way or the other. So we cannot, no party is exempted from the impact of what is currently happening. Hope I've been able to address your question.
Yes. Now, Mr. Wilson, do you think Nigerians now, in the bid to cope with the inflation situation, are, building their houses in bits and pieces? We have instances of people building the parlor, then moving in, and then as time goes on, they keep building the other parts of the house. Do you think that's what's going on now?
Absolutely, because it's some people who have been able to buy property, a land before now, and they cannot cope with the rising cost of rent. Maybe somebody who was paying a 300,000 for a 2-bedroom and suddenly has to pay 700 or 1 million naira. The alternative is say, okay, why don't I put some bricks together and even start with one room and be putting it bricks and bricks together. So that's actually what a lot of people are doing. But are they also at the detriment of their own health? Because it's not an easy task building and living in the same house. But it's what situation is the situation they found themselves. So that's why I encourage that there has to be a form of stakeholder meeting where the government, the building people in the building material sector, real estate developers, and even individuals who are interested in owning homes can sit down and find out how can we make things work.
All right. Now, let's talk about regulation. Is there a body, or an agency responsible for, ensuring that houses meet a certain standard and the materials used are not inferior? Is there like a regulatory body in charge of that?
Well, there is a regulatory body for that. You have the Nigerian Society of Engineers, you have the building contractor, you have the Nigerian Association of Builders, and you also have the Nigerian Institute of Surveyor and Real Estate Evaluators, because they are different bodies. Even the Nigerian Institute of Architects. Yes, we have these bodies, but to the large extent, it's unfortunate that we're unable to carry out the necessary checks to ensure that building collapse are checkmated. Some few individuals just have a way of bypassing these protocols. So that is why beyond having these bodies, there is a need to encourage quality assurance and quality control. If we have quality assurance and quality control measures, it's going to really, really mitigate a lot of these collapse bidding issues. So it's beyond setting up an agency to checkmate. What are they checkmating? What are the checklists they have? And what are the criteria? And when somebody defaults, what are the penalties involved? And the necessary fees, and who are the appropriate bodies that will prosecute such individuals from getting away with it? Until somebody is caught, people will not know how the importance of putting quality assurance and quality control measures in place to drive quality and excellence at all times.
All right. So could you highlight for us some of the major challenges or obstacles those in this industry face, just in case there is someone out there looking to get into the business and all that? What challenges would you highlight, or would you say this industry faces time and time again, and how can such challenges be overcome?
Well, okay. You also have the issues of not meeting to requirements. Unfortunately, a lot of people in this sector don't even know what the maybe Standard Organization of Nigeria require, or what the export promotion or some of these the regulatory bodies within the building material subsector. So for them to be able to encourage people to venture into the business so that they can, rather than having monopoly, so there can be an even spread of people coming in, so that the prices, it will be based on demand and supply, and not a winner takes it all kind of situation. So one of the things that has to be done is there has to be a regular stakeholder meeting between the regulatory bodies and the manufacturers, the wholesalers, and the retailers. So when they have that synergy, so if you are importing, you know the specification of what you are importing in. So you are not importing for your own selfish interest. Rather, you are importing because of the specific requirements. Now, when this is done, everybody is on ground to checkmate quality and ensure that only the best makes it into the Nigerian space.
All right. I would ask this question. If, do you think there are some sellers of building materials who tend to sell at the same price just so that they don't discourage their customers? You know, they sell at the same price and then they add those prices to other materials. For instance, you're selling cement that used to be probably 4,000 naira, and now you're saying to the customer that it is now 5,100, and the customer is like, what? And the customer is dissuaded and leaves. You know, do you think these sellers, in the bid to, you know, to mitigate the situation and ensure that the customers still buy, they tend to still sell at the same price and then, you know, take, you know, the additional amount, the inflated amount, and add it to other materials to ensure that customers still come? Do you think that is a good strategy to apply in this situation?
Well, there is no strategy that is perfect. We all try to see how to fine-tune one or two things, because the seller wants people to buy, and the buyer wants to also buy from the seller. So the issue of looking for ways to offer discounts. Well, everybody is trying to maximize profit at one way or the other. So it's a good, it's a welcome development if that is done, but it's actually not sustainable. So this is where customer relationship management comes in. One of the things that turns people off when they come into such situation is somebody will tell you that I bought at so and so price, but this is the current market price, so I am not selling below this. So the question that will now be is, what other alternatives do you have to what you currently have? So that is where negotiation skills come in. You now look for ways of, okay, what other substitutes that can, if you cannot meet up to 100%, what also can serve for, can give you at least a 70%. Then if the person does not have the resources to buy bulk, you could offer incentive to say, okay, you can buy this, you can make a deposit of this amount so that we can secure the goods for you. Then you work around how to get more funds so that you can buy the things you want to buy. Because, for example, a toilet seat I bought 2 years ago at 17,000, 18,000. At the moment, is about 27 going to 30,000. So what you could do at that point is, what do you have available to deposit in order to secure what you want to buy? Based on that negotiation you have with the seller, you are able to reach a good compromise and able to have what will serve you rather than what will make you keep coming back to the market.
All right, Mr. Wilson, do you think there would ever come a time in Nigeria where we'll have deflation in that prices of materials would become lower, because there are some people out there who are waiting for the time where things will become cheaper and then they can build their houses, because they're like, things are too expensive now. Let us wait. Probably later, you know, these prices will come down and then we can afford to build our houses. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I'm laughing here because prices really don't come down like that. It's just for us to wake up to the reality on ground and look for ways of stepping up to it. So, the principle I adopt is buy what you have to buy with what you have at the time you have to buy it, rather than waiting for the price to come down. It might come down, but it may not be significantly low the way you want to buy it. So you just make sure that you get resources available to buy what you need to buy at the right time you need to buy them. That's just the more realistic approach to it. But to say that the price of cement will come back to 1.5, that would be a miracle. But it's not impossible. It's very, very possible. But we should not.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the use of alternative materials, for instance, instead of using, I don't know the example I want to give, but you get the idea. Alternative materials.
Yeah,
so if you can't afford this, you can get something that is not as, you know, as superior, but something close that can also serve. Do you think that is another approach to go about it? Do you think that is an approach customers or consumers of this product adopt now to ensure that they still get to build their houses, whether or not the inflation is, you know, is something to deal with?
Well, it's something that a lot of that is being practiced in the market. But however, you also look at it in terms of brand. If I don't want to mention a name. Okay, let's say if you're using a Dangote cement, you're using a Boa. You look at other alternatives to use. If you cannot afford the high quality brand, what other brand do you have that can actually serve you? Just like when you're looking at electric wires and cables, you may not be able to afford the top standard one, but there are also actually available ones that can actually serve the purpose. So that's where, when you're going to do search, you make sure you go with somebody who is technically sound, who knows what to do. Because it's more about improvisation. How do we improvise? Not to the extreme, but improvise that can actually give us the maximum results that we need.
Okay. And do you also think that this inflation issue is causing people to build houses in more remote places? Because funny how the price of materials are different depending on the location, you know? So do you think this is encouraging more people to, you know, go out of the urban settlements to more rural parts to ensure that they can at least afford to build in those parts?
Well, to an extent, it is affecting that. But on the alternative, you also look at the cost of transportation. Even if you buy cheaper at somewhere, the cost of transporting what from where you bought to where you need it becomes another factor. So it might actually reduce the quantity of what you're buying. Let's say you are staying on the mainland, and you are moving to Lekki, Aja, or maybe Ekpe, for example. Where you're going to buy, if you go to maybe an Alaba market to pick those materials, the cost of moving from the major markets to where you need it, when you factor that price, going to buy from a nearby market close to the remote area where you are building would have solved a lot of problems for you. So, well, it's encouraging people to go remotely, but at the same time, when you look at the cost of living and the cost of transportation around, it may not be a wise economic decision. So you might have your house, but there are other factors to contend with that you may not have factored in.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson. That is the much we can take on Business Insight today. I don't know if you have final thoughts you want to share with us before we round up, Mr. Wilson.
Okay, I just want to encourage everybody out there, no matter how tough it seems, don't give up on whatever you want to do. Just keep trying. And if you're building, whether you're building or you're intending to build, don't allow the temporary situation to make you take a permanent decision. We will all come out of this.
Indeed, we will. Indeed. Many thanks to you, Mr. Wilson. Samson is an African leading business connector. Thank you for joining us on the show.
My pleasure.
And with that, we draw the curtain on Business Insight today. Many thanks for joining us. Business Insight makes a return tomorrow. Make sure you join us then. I'm Adesua Eramosele. Good afternoon.